Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third installment of Rootfire TV's Lighting Roundtable. What a show I have for you today. I hope everyone out there is staying safe and healthy. My name is Pete Spadaro. I am the lighting designer for Stick Figure, Matisyahu, and a lighting designer at Brooklyn Bowl. Today we have a tremendous panel of talented lighting designers from some of your favorite bands. These three guys put on a hell of a show, and I always have a great time watching them do their thing. Now remember, this is an open forum, so feel free to ask any questions. We'll try to get to everybody. Without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we have Eric Price. Eric is a lighting designer for Motion City Soundtrack, Taking Back Sunday, and Bayside. Eric has also worked with other acts such as Under Oath and Thrice. I became a fan of Eric's when I saw him doing lights for Taking Back Sunday at the McGee in Baltimore while they're on tour with Coheed and Cambria. Welcome, Eric. What's up, buddy?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Excellent. Great. Next up, we have Dave Quinn. Dave is the lighting designer for Dark Star Orchestra, one of my favorites. I met Dave one random night while he was the house lighting designer at Cervantes in Denver. I was still coming up in the business, and Dave showed me a few things on the console that I still use today in my show file, which I appreciate. Thank you, Dave. Dave has worked with other acts such as the Motet, Sun Squabby, Twiddle. He's also the house LD at Port City Music Hall and at one of my favorite venues, the State Theater in Portland, Maine. Welcome, Dave.
How are you doing, everybody?
Last but not least, we have Ben Factor. Ben is the lighting designer for Umphrey's McGee. I've had the pleasure of working with Ben in the past, and he is certainly someone to keep your eyes on for a long time to come. Ben has worked with other acts such as Spafford and Lawrence. Welcome, Ben.
Hey.
Excellent. How are you guys?
Good.
Fantastic.
Won't complain.
We're going to start this off by asking the question everyone's been wondering. What has everyone been up to? How is everybody doing? How are you spending your time? Eric?
I haven't been doing a whole lot during the craziness in the world. Work-wise, it's been pretty slow. Last June, I was fortunate enough to be able to take part in like a 3-city Deftones shoot because the guys didn't want to travel, so they kind of wanted to do it where they were located. So myself, John Eddy, who was their actual LD, and Miles Mangino in New York, kind of did like a 3-part collaborative thing, and they put it all together for some music video tracks. Other than that, not much. Currently in Florida, helping out a friend with a corporate event, which is kind of great to be a part of, and back to work a little bit. But working at a microbrewery in Portland, kind of doing odd stuff around town, helping landscaping, greenhouse folks, gardening, things like that. But yeah, just staying safe, trying to stay healthy, occupied a little bit, and just trying to get through it all. Yeah.
Excellent. How's Florida treating you right now? It's a wild time down there, huh?
It is. I just got in last night, so
yeah,
and we're going to work tomorrow, so not experiencing it too much, but it's certainly a nice weather change from Portland right now. It's still winter in Portland, so it's nice to have Florida weather right now. Yeah.
Of course. Excellent.
And Ben, my buddy just had a kid too, so it's nice to see the kid.
Shout out to the kid. I like it.
Yeah.
Ben, what have you been doing with yourself over this almost past year of pandemic?
Yeah, it's been a long year.
Yeah.
I have spent as much intentional time getting to know myself as I think I ever have, because the road is busy and hectic. So this change of pace has been welcomed from one angle. I've only done a couple shows with Umphrey's. We did a couple drive-ins, and actually they just announced a couple coming up over the coming month. So I'm excited for that. But as far as the past year goes, I've been reading a lot. I took a class in psychology, and I also just got hired or accepted. I don't know. Hired to do a volunteer position with an initiative called the Fireside Project, which is a peer-to-peer support line for people experiencing difficult psychedelic trips or just wanting to talk about their experiences. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Wow, you're getting really in touch with the community there. I like that.
Exactly.
Giving back. It's what we do. Is
you do what you can. You do what you can. Yeah.
Give back. Dave, how have you been? What's going on? How have you been doing during this pandemic?
So at the beginning, I decided I was going to finally learn video, which I've been like wanting to do and haven't had time. So I took a few days and learned Resolume. Then I went deep into analog modular synthesizers, which do old school effects on the video, which I want to like add in, which I think would fit well with Dark Star.
Yeah.
Sculpting for a bit. Started doing yoga in June to like get the, body and mind into a better place. Got really into mountain biking, which is actually a great hobby. Kind of sucks I don't have the money that I need at the time because it's super expensive hobby, but it's good to like get out in nature and ride around and whatnot. And did some live streams at Serves. And did some up at the Villar in Beaver Creek. And then the drive-in shows with Dark Star, I think we did like 13 of them this fall, which was like a good change of pace from not working too much and actually having an audience there and getting a little bit of that energy from people instead of, just doing the live stream, which is very weird in between songs with complete silence. But
I mean, it's there's times when people like you get one person clapping in the audience and it kind of just doesn't sound right.
Dude, one time I opened my hydro flask and I was like, I think everybody can hear it.
Yeah, you can hear everything. It's crazy. It's crazy. Excellent. Glad to hear everyone's doing fantastic and doing things that you wouldn't be normally doing since there's so much travel going on.
True.
Yes. But let's get into some other questions regarding the lighting. We're going to talk about design. Can you guys walk me through your design process and what do you think about when you are designing a rig or a show or whatnot? Eric?
So I generally have pretty free reign over design. Most of the artists I work with don't necessarily have a overall like specific thing they're going for. So I tend to design my rig a lot around whatever the list of venues is. I'll look at our routing and kind of scale something that's going to make everything look big, but also be really manageable everywhere. So my design process, I guess, would start with any kind of basic input from the artist and then just kind of work within constraints, I would say. I'm not normally someone who gets to fly a rig a lot of times. Maybe like, every year or two I'll get a shed thing or, a large co-headline where we're carrying a full package. But a lot of times I'm working off of mostly floor package, maybe a few elements hung, things like that. So generally my design process starts with examining the routing, thinking back to all the venues I know, or like immediately calling friends or colleagues to get info on the other venues that I don't know. And it kind of goes in from there. Fairly simple, straightforward. Working with a larger number of artists, sometimes 3, 4, 5 different artists in a year. It's sometimes more of a utilitarian approach than an artistic design approach. And then you kind of bring in those artistic ideas after the fact. Not to say they're secondary because, you're always going to have your artistic ideas in the forefront, but, the decisions are made kind of from a different a different point of view.
Yeah, it's now when I saw you for the first time on tour with COVID in Cambria, how much input did you have on that rig? Was that
was a full package we carried,
Yeah.
a couple semis, myself and Michael Greek Hyonis, who was Coheed's LD. We had known each other beforehand. We had toured together when I was with Glassjaw. They were sporting Coheed in Cambria, so we lived in Chicago together, and so we knew each other. And when we saw the tour come up, it was like instantly just us bouncing stuff back and forth off each other. So that was a pretty much 50-50 design, and just back and forth collaborative. And then we each had our own elements. I had a floor package with rolling carts and banners and stuff, and then Coheed had the big light up truss, like neon LED thing. So everything overhead, the 3-4 electrics, the truss, and all the side light and the toe lights and stuff were all shared, and then we just kind of threw our own floors into it.
Excellent? Yeah, that was a great tour.
Yeah, it was a fun summer for sure.
Yeah. Ben, how about you walk me through your process? And
I share a sentiment with Eric in that my first probably 3 or 4 gigs I did was just a ground package. Honestly, like 6 R1s on the ground, and that was the extent of it. So Umphrey's was a pretty drastic, step up as far as like a design process goes. We fly everything where we go. So the process for last winter tour was thinking about making cool shapes with the X4 bars, and also thinking about how, this is a personal thing, but how I could make the Umphrey's light show different than what it had been, because I took over for somebody who was working for the band for a decade, with a pretty signature thing. So my design process for that was specifically to be different.
Yes. Excellent. I enjoyed, you had what I call the trios of
I like to think of them as like kind of the old school ACL thing, but now you can move it, you can do it with a moving light, and as many pods as possible.
The pods, I like that. I enjoyed that when I first saw it. I was kind of blown away by it. It was really awesome. Yeah. Excellent. Dave, let's go through your design process.
If I'm doing like a bigger design, I have like a sketchbook that I always have on me, and I'll like draw in it all the time. And I'll just like use different colored pencils and whatnot, and like a bunch of dream rigs, some stuff that like, forms into reality. But I'll go from like drawing on paper. I have a buddy, Matt Arabino, who I work with, who'll put everything on Vectorworks for me. So I can like, send it off, and, but with Dark Star, it's weird because like I can walk into a venue and I'm literally not going to know how I'm going to be able to set up our floor package. As if we're doing 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s show. So like Drum World literally takes stage.
Yeah.
So, depending on what we're doing and all of that and the room I have. So then it's like we set up drums and it's like, this is the room you have, like, figure it out. So it goes from days of flying some lights, figuring out a different ground package, which I learned, going into tour, I had like everything set up, my program, like, this is what I do. And 2 shows in, I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do that. So it's literally a lot of like, walk in that morning and it's just like, I got to come up with an idea and figure it out and then make it work.
No, that was another question I had for you, was a follow-up on that now. That how much of an advance, now for those of us who don't know, Dark Star Orchestra recreates Grateful Dead shows from the past, so they're identical. It's the closest thing you'll ever get to an actual Grateful Dead show. Now, how like much advance does the band give you for this so that you can prepare?
So like when we go out on tour, I get a tour book every time, and you say like what each show is, but then we get like an elective. which an elective could be like in the style of 1970s, in the style of 80s.
Interesting.
It's a crapshoot. I have no idea what like drum world's going to look like or anything. But for the most part, I can go through the book, you know.
Yeah.
It not enough in advance to like program everything.
Yeah.
But I have like an idea of what I'm walking into that day.
Uh-huh.
Comes to the point of like, you know, once things start getting set up, those big stages shrink really, really fast.
Yeah.
But like going into the anthem and stuff like that, I have, you know, that's when I have like full, I can do whatever I want. But
yeah,
you go into places like Higher Ground or even the State Theater in Portland, Maine, I lose a lot of space with that drum world. Yeah, it kills me too is they're always off-centered. Like I never have a symmetrical stage. So it's like a mental thing on top of that.
Do you like go back and listen to the Dead shows beforehand, or are you just
I go back and forth like Red Rocks. I listen to it quite a bit.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing. Like I don't want to listen to it too much because I'm punting the show.
Yeah,
like if I like start making up too many plans, then I'm like thinking of skew instead of just feeling it out.
Yeah,
so my show is just like on feeling, even though I have like an idea of what I want for, you know, the song structure, but
you guys
fly by the pants.
You guys, I haven't worked with you at Brooklyn Bowl when Dark Star came in. Their last LD I worked with, and that's a hell of a load-in you guys have as well. Those Midas boards you guys have that you travel with are wild.
Yeah, it's insane. It's a lot of gear, especially because we have to have everything for all those different types of shows. So
yeah.
Our stage manager has his job cut out for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's super pro though. He knows what he's doing. Mr. Ben Panagar says, "Nice hoodie, Dave."
Yeah. Shout out to Rex Theater and
other side. Yeah, the mirror screws you up.
The mirror thing. Yeah, shout out to Ben, probably one of the best people I know, and probably
he's amazing. I love Ben.
I like his name.
Ben's got the greatest voice of all time too.
Best voice.
It's amazing. And he's just a solid dude all around. Hope to see him soon. Now, like back to the design process. Eric, you said that the band, you pretty much have carte blanche on that. Does the band have they ever come to you and had given you any input on anything in particular? Like for Taking Back Sunday, for example, I know you sometimes hang that big, what is that, like a cat symbol in the middle?
Yeah, the neon panther.
The panther, yeah.
So there'll be stuff like that. I guess I shouldn't say I don't get any direction any of the time.
Yeah.
I get different levels of it, but it's fairly minor. It's more of stuff like we don't, not for any particular band or anything, but like we don't like strobing, or I don't like white light on me ever. Or keep it easy on the haze, that type of thing. And then occasionally I'll get some bigger points handed out, like the Taking Back Sunday thing. We were trying to come up with an idea for their 20th anniversary. We were doing pretty much the whole world, and they were bringing everybody everywhere except South America. So we started with Australia and Asia and Alaska and Hawaii, and then we did a US leg 2 nights everywhere. 3 albums over 2 nights, and then a Europe leg, same thing, 2 nights, a lot of places. Second leg of the US. It was just like an entire year they booked out with everybody on the crew, like a year in advance. Really great. And they wanted to make it big. And, we had some ideas that were a little too ambitious and weren't going to work because of the variety of venue sizes. Like I was saying, you look at your routing and you're like, I'm doing, the Palladium in LA, but I'm also doing St. Andrews in Detroit.
Yeah.
So, I got to be able to do them both, and it's got to look pretty much the same at both.
Yeah.
So like the Neon Panther thing, and I should say with Taking Back Sunday, it's kind of fun and interesting because their tour manager, Andrew, before I got brought on, he was kind of bridging gap between the previous lighting designer. So he was like, directing house guys and girls to program for him and running the show. So he already had some pretty tangible input that he could communicate to me. he was a nice gap. But singer Adam has a lot of influence on the design, and for instance, he was like, I've always wanted a neon panther. It's like, okay, first of all, we're not bringing neon on the road. Second of all, we can do neon with flexible LED tape. We can, custom design it. We made it work, and it was a nice touch that we had for the whole year. But that was pretty much it. Beyond that, we were just kind of sitting around chatting, and I was like, what do you think about lasers? He's like, yes. He's like, well, let's do like choir risers where it's like steps up on the side, like some sort of like Prince video or something. It's like, dude, we can't do that, but we can definitely like flank some like 1-footers that you can get up on and kind of dance around something like. So it's kind of a back and forth like that. But, it's not as hands-on from the artist. A lot of times it'll be more from like management or talking to TMs about like what the band actually likes, and it's more or less just kind of, a lot of times the artist doesn't know how to communicate, which is a big part of our job. Not to say that's a bad thing, like I can't tell somebody what scales they're playing on guitar. But communication is tough when you're trying to give artistic ideas. So not full-blown carte blanche, but minimal direction, and then kind of fixing things as we go. Like, I like this, or
I love how your artist wants this big grandioso thing, and you always have to bring them back down to earth, and you're like, nah, that's not so feasible.
Yeah, I mean, I do the same thing. I'll throw them out like, hey, let's do this, and then they see the budget, and you just get laughed at. They're like,
yeah.
Excellent. Ben, how much input did Umphrey's have on your current design or the last design that you did?
The band members themselves, not much. They're kind of down for whatever. As far as collaboration goes, I'm working pretty closely with our production manager to talk budget and also like rigging feasibility. I'm honestly kind of young and still learning rigging limits and that world. As I said, I hadn't flown rigs on my own before Umphrey's, so I'm definitely learning as I go with that. The band struggles with side lighting because they really need to see the monitor engineer. Lots of adjustments throughout the show, but I'm working on it in terms of that. I side lighting looks so good, so we'll get that eventually. And then as far as like the actual show goes, the programming, the operation, it's kind of all me. The song 1348 is like a pretty classic Umphrey's tune, which has notable lighting cues. That was actually Brendan Bayless, the guitarist. That was his idea of how to light that song. So when I learned that, I was like, okay, cool. I'll definitely keep so it's like solo things, big fly out. That was Brendan's idea. So outside of 1348, it's all me.
Excellent. That's good. Yeah. That's always fun to hear. Next time I see Umphrey's and I see that happen, I'll know a little bit about.
There you go.
That's the programmed.
Yeah.
Dave, how much influence does the band have on your design process?
Dark Star pretty much just gives me free range, as long as I stay within budget, and plus, like on tour, I have like the fixtures that the band owns, so I'm kind of like limited to those. So I don't really rent gear too much unless we're doing our festival or Red Rocks or like some other big gigs. But for the main part, obviously I have to like keep things like slower than, more of a rock show because to be fitting, but, so like no strobing. I keep haze to a minimum, just enough to see the beams and stuff. And try not to blind the drummers during drums. That's like one thing to think about because they're literally staring at a good chunk of my fixtures. So I try to like think about that to either like make it so it goes out around them, not just blast them straight in the face. But they're good about giving me actually feedback. They're good about giving positive feedback, which is nice as well.
Yeah. Positive reinforcement goes a long way.
I also get yelled at about haze, but not by the band, by Bob, by my production manager.
Well, there you go. It's there's actually a you guys can't see it, but there's a 1348 little conversation going on in the comments here. That there's fans that are very happy to see that look has stayed. There you go. Excellent.
You kept Zach happy.
Excellent. Ben Factor's keeping the Umphrey's fan base happier.
Them bands are cool.
Song dropping.
Song dropping. I like that. He's definitely a song dropper. Excellent. So let's just go into some other questions here. What's your favorite indoor and outdoor venue to light, Eric?
Indoor and outdoor venue. I think
Indoor
outdoor venue. I think outdoor is a much harder question because I hate doing shows outside. I absolutely hate the wind and the sun. Indoor venue. There's a lot I like for different reasons. I'd say gear and show wise, probably Terminal 5. Like gear, crew, and show wise, it's New York, probably the best venue in New York of that size. Insanely nice Roby rig, and the LD and crew there just like get it done all the time. The other indoor venue that I love a lot for kind of just personal comfort reasons is the Bomb Factory in Dallas. Awesome accommodations, good crew again. Deep Ellum's a lot of fun. You know, you get done with loadout and you're right there. And
that's a great little part of town.
Yeah. Outdoor venues. I kind of have a few for like different reasons. Personally, just because of like me going to shows when I was younger and a kid, I got really excited doing a show at PNC. First time I was there, like I saw so many Fish shows there.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I've never done Red Rocks or the Gorge. I'd probably say that if I had.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of shows, but the Greek in Berkeley, as horrible of a load-in as it is, it's such a cool vibe. Like during the show, it's just everybody on a wall, basically. But yeah, probably Bomb Factory and the Greek.
And the Greek, excellent. Little, some people don't know this about PNC. PNC was actually designed by the same guy that designed Madison Square Garden.
That's right. That's good.
And you can see it within the circle over the top.
Yeah.
Excellent. Ben, favorite indoor venue and favorite outdoor venue to light?
Indoor, either the Fillmore Detroit or the Beacon Theater. They have, for similar reasons, the architecture is just gorgeous in both those rooms.
Absolutely.
Outdoor, I still haven't done Red Rocks as a headliner, but I've done it as an opener twice, and you know, it's pretty overwhelming how beautiful the scenery is. So I'll probably stick with Red Rocks. Yeah, that's my answer.
Excellent. The Fillmore in Detroit is incredible.
Yeah.
When I was on tour with Cope, we actually got our truck stolen out of the parking lot there. So word to the wise, watch your shit.
Dang.
You
you should probably lock the truck when you.
Well, our driver was having a cigarette, and a drunk girl got in the truck and drove away with all the gear in it. Pretty crazy night. Dave, favorite indoor and outdoor venues to light?
Indoor, I'd probably go with the Cap Theater, just because I don't know. Every time I do a show there, it's just the energy in the room and the fans and the crew's great and the rig's great. Also the State Theater in Portland, Maine, just because I grew up going to shows there. Then I got a chance to work there for like a year. Technically, I still work there, but just not there ever. And outdoor, I would say Red Rocks, probably just because I don't know. There's nothing more special than And I'll tell you, one of the best feelings I had was walking through that tunnel during set break after having that first set. It felt so good. And I'm not gonna lie, I had the tear come down from, walking down there. It's like, it's one of the meccas. It's like that and MSG are like the two that you just want to be able to light some career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We got a fan question here. I'm assuming this is Zach Schwartz. Zach's lighting designer for the Higgs out in California, and at Belly Up, Sonoma, I believe. Zach, oh wait, that's not Zach. Zach asked, build a rig with one fixture.
No.
It's a question. Answer the question. Eric, what would you choose?
If I had to build a rig with just a single fixture everywhere, I would. My buddy's over here laughing because we joked about this earlier. I would say probably Roby McPoint, just for versatility. If I had to do something on a budget and do like a one fixture rig on a budget, I would probably do like a Mac Quantum. I'm a huge, notorious fan of Mac Quantums. I get made fun of all the time for it because it's such a wimpy fixture, so to speak, in this day and age of crazy beams and hybrids. But Mega Point, I think, would probably be the most versatile option.
Are you talking spot or wash quantum?
Oh, like a profile, like quantum profile.
Okay. Because there's the quantum wash. Yeah.
No, yeah. Oh, the beasts. No, probably quantum spot. Spot. Lightweight, easy, low power, inexpensive. Still getting all that Martin optics and stuff. But, it's a good fixture. It's like a Max 700 of this era. The next generation of the 700. It's going to be around for 20 years. You're going to be seeing those venues.
It's a Viper light essentially.
Yeah, but Roby Mega Point. If I was going to do 12 down and then three runs of truss with 12 fixtures on each, 24 fixtures on each, it'd be great to have those be all Mega Points.
Yeah, of course. Ben?
All right, if I had to do this, I would take the challenge and make it fun and do all JDC ones.
Wow.
I think it'd be fun to make some shapes and put them all in extended mode and use them for uplighting, and then obviously the tube just to blast everybody away.
And I would actually set of sunglasses when you walk in the door too.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a pair of sunglasses when they turn their ticket over.
I would love to see that. Actually, that would be a very interesting Umphrey's management. Keep that in mind for the next store.
Oh, I already sent the email. Don't you worry, man.
Dave?
I would probably say maybe a Roby BMFL, possibly, or something like. Because I've been actually in this situation one time for actually my Red Rock show. Is I had like no time to like actual design the rig. It was like last minute. Originally I was supposed to share a rig, and then they were like, oh, he's doing something that there's no way you can he's part of, so come up with something. So I was honestly in the middle of shows, so I didn't have time. So I just did a rig of all Vipers because it was like super easy for me to clone a show. So I was already, so many steps ahead into my show instead of starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Probably be that or a bunch of just Parkans, just no gels, just white light.
Wow.
Those are my two.
That's a hot stage.
It would be a warm ass stage.
Excellent. Great question, Zach. All right, moving on. We're going to get into some influence here. Who influenced your lighting style? And who do you look up to for lighting stuff now? Eric?
Definitely first and foremost, Chris Kuroda. Like I said before, I grew up going to shows all the time. Other than that, Candace Berkman. I'm also a really huge Talking Heads fan. Stop Making Sense is kind of like what made me want to get into stage work I didn't really know it was lighting at the time, but pretty much anything Talking Heads, which I guess you could pretty much credit to David Byrne, Beverly Emmons, or Abigail Rawson, no Schoenfeld helping out. Like, it's kind of more of a crew effort putting out his idea. But Chris Kuroda was a huge influence. Saxon. I went to a lot of like late 90s jam band stuff. So even Ben's predecessor, Jefferson, back when he was doing like Strange Folk, and just working bar bands and stuff like that.
Uncle Sammy.
Yeah. Wetland shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, mainly Chris Kuroda, I would say, in my approach to overall look and kind of color theory and things like that, and kind of where I take my notes, I would say, when I'm listening to a song and writing out cues that I'm going to do, like colors and pop here and blinders and this and that. I find it like I'm trying to not look like what he does because he's got that much of an influence on me.
Yeah. Ben, who's some of your influences?
Currently from a design perspective, this guy Leroy Bennett, who does like all the A-list acts, like Beyonce and Bruno Mars and that kind of level. The Bruno Mars most recent world tour, it's like the pod idea, but taken to the max. It's like these like 5x5 pods of beams everywhere. Awesome look. And then from an operation standpoint, definitely the first time I started to check out Luke Stratton's work with Double it was obvious that he is also a musician, and that's kind of where I'm coming from. And the way he accentuates the guitar riffs and all the time signatures, like down to the beat, was really influential for me to see that actually exists in the world. And then, like the heavy hitters of jam band lighting designers, Kuroda for sure. Saxon Waller's timing is insane. Kuroda lands on the one really well, but Saxon also like right on the one. Yeah, and definitely Jefferson Waffle for sure. His approach to color is awesome. He definitely has interesting choices of how to combine different color looks. But now I'm trying, Eric, similar to you, I'm trying to like shed that influence because
Tough.
Yeah.
As I could only imagine, and for the band, like you've probably seen so much of his stuff that almost can't get it out of your head. Like
I'd seen the band enough to like it. I'm trying not to go to orange and strobe at the end of like 40s theme or something, because that's exactly what Waffle would do, Yeah. So yeah, that's my answer for my influences.
Excellent. Dave?
My favorite of all time is Andy Watson, who does Radiohead.
Nice.
The designer, probably Martin Phillips, just because he does shit so far outside of the norm. He was the guy who did Daft Punk Pyramid. He's done 9 Inch Nails, Kanye West on the Dark Tour. He's just probably one of the coolest designers, I think, out there. Saxton, he is actually the one who taught me how to program a Grand MA back in 2009. But
wow.
So yeah, there's Saxton, and then Andy Cass. I like watching his show. That kid, I feel like everything he does is just his timing and his approach and the designs he comes up with as well. And then of course Paul Hoffman. I like watching what he does.
Excellent.
I will say, Peter, if you guys aren't familiar, I forgot to mention somebody who doesn't get mentioned a lot. Chris McGregor. He has done a lot of stuff with The Residents. Mm-hmm. He's like a lighting designer, but he also is like a full-on production designer. I guess we're all kind of familiar with the jam band community. The tower set that they did in Limestone, Maine, where they had acrobats coming off an air traffic control tower and stuff. Like he helped collaborate on that a little bit. But
Awesome.
Chris McGregor with the Residents is some cool stuff if you ever want to get down a hole of something else to look at.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Nice.
Awesome. Moving on. Now, if there's any young lighting designers out there, or people that want to pursue in the lighting world, what advice would you give to somebody that was up and coming in the lighting world or wanted to get started in the lighting world? Eric?
I think, the simplest advice I could tell someone, short of, saying, go back to school, don't go back to school, join a theater. I don't think anybody ever has the right answer for someone else on that. You kind of have to figure out that route on your own. So I tend to not tell people like, go to school, don't go to school. I kind of avoid that approach to it. The biggest thing I would say is learn as many consoles as you can. Like if you want to be a lighting designer and you want to program consoles, like you of course have to learn the nuts and bolts. You have to, learn the stage routine and some electrical stuff and some verbiage, and you just got to get in there and do it like anything else. You just got to spend some time practicing, which is just doing it. But as far as actually designing and programming, my biggest advice would be learn every console you can and then decide what you want to use. Like it's like just the tool that everyone uses, and it's not as important as you would think it is, but you got to try everything. And the more you learn everything, the better you're going to understand everything else. It's like learning French is hard, but once you've learned French, you can learn Spanish or German. And as you learn languages, they all just kind of start to make sense a little bit easier. And it's the same way with programming in my mind. Like give everything a shot, put some effort into it, learn it, and figure it out what route you want to go.
I like that advice coming from you. So, Eric is a hog master.
Master, but
and the first hog user in Lighting Roundtable history. So
had to happen sometime, right?
I always see I'm a member of a Facebook group at Eric's, and I always see him putting stuff up in this group, and like just watching him doing that show in Baltimore that he did was incredible. Before we get to the other two, then that brings me to Eric again. When you the other two guys, Dave and Ben, operate their show as a punt page, if you will. How do you go about your show with that? Since you're on a
most of my shows are kind of a stark contrast to Ben and Dave and yourself. I think for the most part with like Stick Figure, I am pretty much working off the same set list every night. Same order, everything. There might be like a 2-3 song section where there's like an audible thing where we're gonna play 3 out of these like 7 song choices. So I can pretty much do a Q to Q show where I'm really just doing verse, chorus, bridge type thing, and I'm just supplementing like a wash or maybe a crowd blinder or something like that, just kind of keeping it the vibe of whatever's happening. The show's a little more down tempo, so I'm not hitting the crowd as much. But for the most part, I can do a Q to Q show if the budget allows and things like that. So either time constraints or things like that. I definitely still run into tours where I need to punt a good amount of it. Maybe the band doesn't know the whole set list right away. Maybe I get like half the set list or something, and everything else is like by like week 2 it's set in stone, but I can't program it now. I'm just punting it every day. I do occasionally come into stuff like with Taking Back Sunday where I know the songs. I've been with them for years now. I've programmed them multiple times each. When we go somewhere like Australia or Europe, I don't carry anything. I don't carry anything. Maybe I got a backdrop. So one day I'm using an Avo, the next day I'm using a Leviton, the next day I'm on an MA2. Maybe I get a hog and I can dump my show file in and see how it works.
Wow.
Because I don't have the floor package or,
Wow.
So there are days that I'm like full blown punting, like, hey, just give me the strobes here. Give me the wash here. But for the most part, I'm able to do Q to Q shows, which is weird because when I started out, I was doing everything punting, just trying to like doing the Coretta thing and stuff, just trying to make it vibey every day. And then eventually bands were like, yeah, we want like exact structure, like, hey, it's cool, but like, why was this song like more blue the other day? I'm like, well, we didn't pre-program everything. It's got a little change every day. You play the riff a little different. I'm like, okay, cool. Next time, like, let's like make it exact same every day. We're gonna try to make everybody do the same thing every night and perfect it. So a little bit of a mix, but mostly Q to Q, which is really fun because you can make the show snappy and like you can really hit those notes when you're seeing it every night, and you can touch it up and it's going to be better the next night, but also can be not boring by any means, but you're more like zoned in on a different thing than music. You're kind of half paying attention to like your playback and the music instead of more like playing a keyboard and vibing with the music.
Excellent. Yeah, I was curiosity of mine because I had a feeling that you had the same set list every night or something similar to that. I was just it was very interesting. But circling back, Ben, advice for somebody getting into lighting.
One quick note is that I am kind of a hybrid situation. I have Q stacks for. I mean, they have fucking. Oh, I'm sorry. They have.
Beat that in post, right?
Sorry, they have like 200 songs and 200 covers. So I'm not going to claim that I have Q stacks for every single song that Umphrey's would play, but I have probably like 60 songs with stacks ready to go, and then switch over to the punt side for the improv. My advice for young or starting out lighting designers would be there's two parts. A, learn music, and not necessarily play music, not necessarily learn music theory, but really get intimate with like how music functions in terms of form and emotion, especially if it's a jam band situation. Being able to follow like tendencies of improvisation is really important. Second piece of advice would be to be a good person and treat every person that you work with respect, so that the next time you come to their venue, they're excited to work with you or can give you a call when they have an opening for a tour or something like that.
That's great advice. Excellent advice. Dave?
I'll probably go with Mike Smalley gave me this advice when I like just learned how to program a console and was like trying to find a job at a venue and stuff. But he told me to go find a lighting and sound company and go work in a warehouse and start pushing a broom if needed, and putting together lighting packages and stuff like that, and learn like the infrastructure of like larger productions, and learn the terminology of like all the weird things that we have, like a pickle and like a monkey claw and like all the weird names we have for all like stuff we end up having to use. So that was probably the best advice, because I learned so much and I actually got paid while I was learning these things instead of vice versa, paying to learn things.
So that's how you got your start in the industry?
No, but that was like how when I moved out to Colorado, how I I was working at Cervantes as a door guy and helping set up lights if need be, but that was like how I learned way more and learned about rigging and actually like designing rigs and actually getting my hands on a bunch of like lights and even the console that I wouldn't have been able to get my hands on for a few years down the road. That, and the other thing I would say is, if you can, download free software and a visualizer and program. So that's what I did. I went out and learned how to program an MA from Saxton and went back home, bought a computer and built a MA like setup at my house. So for 3 years I did nothing but program to rigs that I'd build that never even get to use, but it was just good practice.
How did you get your start in the industry?
So originally, well, going way back, my uncle used to own a semi-professional, a minor league hockey team, which was under the Boston Bruins, which was the Maine Mariners, became the Providence Bruins. But I was going to shows, or always going there. I always remember like the guys running the follow spots, and the guys would come skate out on the ice, and I was like, I want to do that. I was like, that's what I want to do. But I never had like a direction. So I started working with this band, learning sound, the Mallet Brothers. And one night I just got to run lights, like literally just pushing faders on a Parcan rig. Fell in love. Was going to go to Full Sail. My friends talked me out of it. And we're like, I used to follow Sound Tribe a lot and a bunch of other bands in my 20s. So they were like, hit up the lighting designer, and apprentice him. So I hit up Saxton because I knew him a little bit, and ended up flying out to Colorado and taught me how to program on Grand MA on PC, and ended up moving to Colorado and got a job at Cervantes working the door, and then I started bar backing and worked my way up and talked them into letting me run lights there.
Amazing.
Taught myself how to program in Avo, just went in early and just put in the work.
Amazing. Eric, how'd you get your start?
My original start in like production work, I was living in Portland, Oregon, early 2000s, and just been wanting like a career change. I was like 20 years old, and I had a friend who was like a boyfriend of a girl that I was friends with who was a lighting designer. I forget his name. Guy Allen, I think was his name, or Guy Allen. And basically he just kind of set me up on crew calls at the Crystal Ballroom. And, I
Nice.
did for like a while, I did garbage loadouts. It was like, we're having a Maxim party. Like, we need you for the out, which it was like, 40 hands showing up, like carrying seeing cylindrical old LED walls like downstairs and things.
You can't fit everything in that small elevator there, right?
You can hardly fit anything in that elevator. In there. that Neon Panther, we had to carry up the stairs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just working like crew calls, and then I was kind of at a crossroads of wanting to learn more lighting stuff, programming, designing, possibly getting into touring, things like that. And my roommate at the time was friends with Brooke Kimball, who is a San Francisco LD who's like for years, worked at like Fillmore and the Warfield and stuff. He's also currently Ween's LD. But he gave me his phone number, and I just got on the phone with him, started chatting, and kind of did the same thing Dave was talking about, like, do I go back to school? What do I do? And he basically told me, like, don't go back to school. And I went back to school. I went to Full Sail. And then I enjoyed it, learned a lot. I spent all my free time. I was paying for it by myself. I got a great, tuition break thing, and spent all my time there, learned as much as I could, moved to Chicago, started working corporate and theater and clubs and whatever I could do, and just kind of hit the ground running. But it's kind of why I shy away from the, like, do I go to school, do I not? Because I was like talked out of going to school by somebody I kind of idolized, and then I just went to school anyway. because it was what worked for me. I wasn't getting the opportunity. Like, I probably should have just moved to Chicago to save money, but it expedited my situation a lot. Fortunately, I was fortunate to kind of excel quicker.
Excellent. Ben, before we get to you, there's a whole discussion going on about your language in the comments. I don't know, is whoever Daniel Factor is wants to let you know that your mother is very angry about it. So you should apologize.
That's good. That's really
Ben, how'd you get your start?
Well, it's like, how far back do you want to go? As far as my start working, my initial goal in I studied audio engineering in college. The initial goal was to do that kind of thing, studio stuff. So I was working a studio internship in Chicago, and some of my co-interns also worked in the live side of things. I wanted to do lighting because I was kind of into jam bands at the time. It turned out the company they worked for was kind of like tangential to Jay Goldberg events, who does summer camp. And I was like, holy shit, Umphrey's. So yeah, so I kind of just did work with a small production company, worked summer camp, eventually met people, and as I said before, just kept like making good, genuine connection with people. Got a call for a tour with an upcoming jam band called Munyon, who was doing a tour with Spafford, and then Spafford's LD couldn't make that tour, so I ended up also doing Spafford. And the through line from Spafford to Umphrey's is pretty clear, so that's kind of my path.
Excellent. Going back to some regular lighting stuff, what is your favorite song to light by your bands, Eric?
By bands that I work for?
Yeah, by bands you
work. By Taking Back Sunday, I'd say probably either Cute Without the E, Cut from the Team, or What It Feels Like to Be a Ghost. Cute Without the E is kind of like one of their big hit songs, and What It Feels Like to Be a Ghost has got some really cool dynamics and lets me like, it's got like guitar solos where like everyone drops out except the guitar player, so you can do like nice hard blackout single spot shots, and it's got these crazy builds and like manic chorus, so that's fun. Working for like Motion City, they got a couple that I really enjoyed doing. They got a slow song called Last Night, I believe, or at least that's what it was in the set list. I don't know what maybe that's the actual album name song, but really cool. It's kind of a slow, sappy song, but it's again, it's real dynamic and fun to up and down with. But yeah.
Excellent. Ben, favorite song to light?
I'm so saturated in the jam band world that I forget the song name is ridiculous, but the song is called Miss Tinkle's Overture. And that's kind of one of their more composed tunes. It's got a lot of different sections. I think Jake talks about it being influenced by kind of a lot of classical music. It's got a lot of classical rhythmic elements to it. So that is one of the songs that I have queued out, which is, I think, is why it's one of my favorites. I really enjoy watching an intricate light show happen in front of me without having to like be frantic. I'm just like hitting go for the most part. And then there's an improv section, which is, always fun. And the end of that song is Rage, just straight shred with hits and strobes. So yeah, Miss Tinkle's Overture is my favorite.
Dave, what's your favorite DSO / Grateful Dead song to light up?
I have two for two different reasons. One is Terrapin, because that's like the one song I have that actually I have structure to my, I know exactly how I'm going to do it. It's the same pretty much every time. And then my second one is probably Viola Lee Blues, just because coming out of that jam is probably one of my favorite things to do, just going complete chaos and then just boom, everything hits. And I don't know, I just get a feeling from that every time that's just, I can't even explain. It's just like, the crowd roar. I can't explain it. It's better than
yeah, of course. We all miss that crowd roar, I'm sure. Favorite effect, Eric?
Favorite effects, as in like programming effect, or just kind of?
Yeah, programming effect.
Man, that's really tricky. I mean, on Hog, it's probably be just like a offset dimmer chase. It's tough to say. If I had to pick one, probably just like an offset dimmer chase. on a a intensity speed handle type thing where you're just running speed and intensity on maybe 2 faders. Yeah. I, as much as we all use effects, I kind of think effects engines on all consoles should be better than they are. I feel like it's kind of in need of a great update and like a different approach. I don't have an answer for it, so it's kind of moot for me to be saying something. But yeah, probably a dimmer, just an offset dimmer chase that you can kind of just ride. It's always just really gratifying to watch like that just sine wave go over the rig thing.
MA Lighting Technologies actually agrees with you on that. That's why they came out with that phaser that they have on the 3.
They got like a sponsor banner down here somewhere that you're gonna flash. He's wearing a shirt. So
MA Lighting Technologies. Ben, favorite effect?
I have this kind of combo effect line that I use with mega points a lot, or I guess just the point, anything with a linear prism that is a combination of color and zoom. It's zoom out and turn white. And I do it in groups of 3. And I have a lot of my fixtures in groups of 3. So it's kind of like these groups of mega points that are like spreading out. I wish I could share a video. It's hard to explain, but basically think mega points in linear prism, and then in groups they are spreading out and turning white when they spread out. It's a really trippy effect, and it works well with Vipers. Anything that has a fast zoom, it works well with.
Excellent. I like that a lot. Dave, favorite effect?
Mine's probably the gobo scroll. I don't know. And I like to add like a line delay to it, so it almost.
So in your intro, the thing that you taught me that night was your delayed gobo scroll.
I like to think I came up with that. I'm not 100%. I've been using it for a long time, and it was like
amazing.
One of my favorite things. I don't know. It just looks good.
Yeah, it does look good.
So it's like each fixture starts to gobo scroll.
Yeah.
Delay.
It's like doing a 0-3 type thing, so that it cascades down and everything's just a little bit behind itself.
That's cool.
Kuroda does a lot of that.
Yeah,
Kuroda does a lot of that, especially when you have the best boys. When you would have the best boys, you'd be able to do like the actual like focus delayed out, like spread fanned out focus delay, where it would kind of snap and roll.
They need to put that on more fixtures. I'll tell you that right now. Favorite color combo, Eric?
Favorite color combo. For me personally, I love magenta and green. I think those like Joker like colors are awesome. I don't get to use them very much, but magenta and green for some reason really pops with me. I love blue and yellow. Unfortunately, the more we get into like LED technology, yellow becomes less and less appealing. Unless you're on a really nice quality fixture, something incandescent or an arc lamp. Magenta green, I'm really big fan, like cyan magenta as well, like Miami Vice kind of color. But magenta green's my fave. That's kind of weird.
Ben, favorite color combo?
I would say warm white and green, like a CTO and green. It kind of reminds me of like Dr. Dre Chronic album cover in a way, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also recently, and I really can't do this for Umphrey's because it's such a wide spread of styles or whatever. But when I see a cohesive like pop show that is monochrome and like just sticks to one color per song, I think that's super powerful. I did like Ty Segall for a house gig, and he was like, keep it red the entire set. And that was tight.
Most Def said that to me too when I was doing a house gig. He just keep it red the entire set. I had one white light when he came out and greeted the crowd, and the first he said was, "Mr. Lightman, red."
Amazing.
Cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Dave, favorite color combo?
I like purple and blue. Like, I also like to use like just a bunch of different like colors of blue, like on the look, and sometimes purple blue with a tiny bit of red. I'm also a big fan of. And then I have one look in my show file that I do amber and blue, and I call it Andy because it's my best friend and it's his favorite color combination, and he literally he gets pumped if I ever throw that up.
Here's another fan question here, which is a great question. Favorite drink to receive unexpectedly at front of house?
Oh man,
Eric, we'll start with you.
Probably a PBR and a Jameson shot. Just because that's kind of my go-to if I'm drinking anyway. I mean, I'm drinking a PBR right now. Yeah, light beer, shot of whiskey. Pretty simple guy when it comes to stuff like that. I had actually a really funny show at Taking Back Sunday a few years ago on that Coheed tour. We were in Jacksonville and it was my birthday, and Adam in between songs had the crowd sing me happy birthday, and it was embarrassing, obviously. And at the end of singing happy birthday, he told the crowd that I love Coors Light. Case up my console after our set, change over for Coheed's happening. I come back out to front of house and there was just like a row of like stadium size like Coors Light cans just like boom across the front of my front of house desk. And yeah, that it was funny, you know. It was the sweetest effort ever. Just a little bit off to the side.
This is actually for the fans, to educate the fans so that next time there's a show, they know what to bring you. Ben, favorite drink to receive unexpectedly in front of house?
In the morning when I get to front of house at a load-in, if I see coffee with Planet oat milk.
There you go. Planet oat milk.
Extra creamy.
I'm a big fan of the Chobani oat milk. Delicious. You should check that out. It's pretty
Fair
good.
enough. I haven't received this drink yet. That's why it's still unexpected.
So extremely unexpected.
Yeah.
It would be, yeah.
Surprise.
For all the Umphrey fans out there, keep that in mind next time that there's an Umphrey show. Dave, favorite drink to receive unexpectedly in front of house?
Big fan of Miller High Lifes. Good whiskey and tequila. Either one of those.
Good. That's excellent. Excellent. I would go for an Arnold Palmer. Excellent. Great question. Moving on. Dream concert or tour to light? I think this is a question that's asked by a lot of people, but Eric, what would be your dream concert or tour to light?
Or do we
at any time of all time?
Any time of all time?
Yeah.
I probably the Talking Heads. Yeah, definitely Talking Heads. I think a close second for me would probably be Ween.
Awesome.
As much of a Fish fan as I am, I would never want to try to light Fish. It just I wouldn't. My brain would like break trying to do it. So yeah, band that's not around anymore. Talking Heads, band that's still around, probably Ween.
Awesome. I like that. Let's change the question to band that's currently around and not around. Ben.
So 2 weeks ago, I watched this show from the late 70s, which was Joni Mitchell with this band the band was Pat Metheny on guitar, Jocko on bass, and Michael Brecker playing sax. It was like all-star band. Awesome. Shadows and Light is the record. So the DVD, they're in this beautiful like stage in the middle of the woods. It looks awesome. It makes me want to live in a different decade. So my dream show right now would be Red Rocks, Umphrey's playing that album front to back with this current singer-songwriter Madison Cunningham, who's like my generation's Joni Mitchell, and Josh Redman on sax playing the part of Michael Brecker, and my good friend Max Cornell opening the show.
Wow, that's the dream concert right there. I think that he nailed the question right there.
I dream about it a lot. If it's not,
he's had this dream.
Yeah.
Dave, dream concert / tour light other than 5/8/77.
I think so. If you ask my band, they would probably give you this answer. It'd either be King Gizzard or Taylor Swift. I like running my Taylor Swift. That's like my dream job, just because it's Taylor Swift's world. So
yeah, it really is.
But plus, I just want a rig that big. But and to the second part of the question, if I could do like a tour that's doesn't exist anymore, I would probably want to do George Clinton back when they had that like UFO.
Nice
stage. That would be probably what it, because I feel like those George Clinton days, like back in like the 70s and stuff, were probably a good time.
I was at Catskill Chill a couple years ago when he was there, and I'll tell you what, it was still a good time now. That was like 4 years ago.
Funny thing is, the first show I ever worked like as a stagehand was George Clinton at the Main State Pier.
Amazing. Oh, I love the Main State Pier. Nice. You're done early there. There's like curfew's like 8 o'clock. It's like we're 7 o'clock. You go and get some lobster rolls right next door. It's beautiful. Excellent. So wrapping up here, ask you guys, what's next for you guys? Eric, what's next for you?
Well, I've got a lot of rescheduled stuff from this year, but nothing set in stone yet. You know, we're all still kind of in limbo. The next thing that I have with my touring gig that's actually out there and announced is a rock cruise with Taking Back Sunday.
Cool
thing in October with Coheed and Cambria and
it's a Coheed.
I forget everybody else. It's a Coheed cruise, and we're one of the direct support bands. But you know, it's the typical suspects. You know, I want to say Every Time I Die, maybe on it. A few other bands. But that's the next thing I have set in stone. Lots of stuff kind of saying, all right, we've rescheduled the dates for now, but
just waiting.
Don't hold your breath.
In limbo, yeah. In limbo. Hoping for like a quarter to 3 touring return. Hopefully that's optimistic, but
really just kind of waiting for everything to kick back up. Like I said earlier, I don't know if we were on or not, but we're currently in Florida working a corporate gig with a friend. So, you know, happy to be doing a socially distanced, you know, safe corporate gig. It'll be nice to just get my fingers back on some taters.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a campus, I might say, on a campus.
Oh. The theme of today's show was Eric and his versatility. He loves it. Ben, what's next for you?
I just finished mixing and mastering my own album that I recorded here at my house with my friends, and I'm struggling to get it uploaded to Spotify due to formatting issues. So that is what's immediately up next for me in terms of lighting, which is why we're here. Umphrey's just released a couple dates. We're doing one in Florida in mid-April, which is like a outdoor pod style show. Sewanee, yep, classic venue. And then we're doing a series of drive-in shows in Atlanta Motor Speedway, the same spot we did back in October, Chicago, and actually Detroit. So that'll be an easy one for me to do, so I can drive to and from the gig from where I currently am.
fairly large drive-in shows too.
Yeah, I mean, the Motor Speedway one back in October was as fun of a show I've ever done from like a rig perspective. It was designed by Greg Ellis from Pretty Lights, and it was like smacked with video and FXBs, and he also brought his own media server, which talks with the MA really nice. So like all of my dimmer chases were with video, and I could like overlay colors with clips. It was cool. Awesome. So hopefully a similar sitch is waiting in Atlanta again. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know, man. Hopefully we get through coronavirus safely and shows are back. That's kind of what's on the horizon.
Excellent. Dave, what's next for you? I know you got some things coming up.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much back to Cervantes doing socially distant shows with like 80 people in a room that usually has like 1,000 people. But we're doing shows pretty much every weekend. And then Dark Star, I think our first show back will be the Caverns, but above ground. And then I think we have a show in Alabama, and then it's the 2 shows at the Caverns. And then in May, I know we have our festival. Usually we have our Dark Star Jubilee, but we're doing like a socially distanced festival called the Jubilation. So it'll be cool to be back on those grounds. But looks like drive-ins are the what we got ahead of us for at least for a while now. So
yeah.
Excellent. Well, I wanted to thank you guys for joining me. This was a blast, very educational. Learned a lot about you guys. I want to thank Rootfire, Reed, for everything, and thank you guys for watching. Peace out.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Pete.
Have a good one, everyone.